Hey everybody, it's time to recap the latest news from the solar PV industry, compiled by the American Solar Energy Society. I'm Jay Warmke with SolarPVTraining.com, and this is what's happening in the wonderful world of solar for the week of November 10th. The U.S. Energy Information Administration, or the EIA, has forecast that electricity coming from hydropower plants are going to be, in 2024, are going to be down about 13% less than the rolling 10-year average. This represents less power from hydropower from any year since 2001. Extreme and exceptional drought conditions have been affecting different parts of the United States, particularly the Pacific Northwest, which hosts the majority of the U.S. hydropower capacity. By the end of September, 72.6% of the U.S. was experiencing drier than normal to exceptional drought conditions. And by the end of October, this had risen to about 87% of the country under drought conditions. The U.S. currently receives 5.7% of its electricity from hydropower sources. A recent report from Renewable Energy World has analyzed pretty much every announced battery manufacturing announcement that came as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act, just to see if they were proceeding on schedule, doing the construction as well as the expansion. They found that the vast majority were in fact underway with enough capacity to manufacture about 5 million electric vehicles. Now, this total capacity represents 72% of the announced production, as well as 79% of the announced jobs that would come from these facilities. The projects are expected to invest about $52 billion in capital expenditures, support 490 gigawatt hours of battery capacity, manufacturing capacity each year, and employ nearly 30,000 people in this newly forming industry, primarily in the U.S. Southeast, the Midwest, and the Southwest. There's been an extraordinary increase in battery storage installations over the past several years, and it truly is transforming the American electrical grid. Altogether, the U.S. has added about 20 gigawatts of storage capacity to the grid since 2020, according to recent statistics from EIA. To put this in perspective, that's the equivalent of about 20 new nuclear reactors had they been added to the grid in just 4 years. Even more impressive, a quarter of this capacity has been installed just in the first 7 months of 2024. The growth shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, EIA projects that we may see a doubling in capacity to 40 gigawatts by the end of 2025, if everything goes according to plan. Solar Cycle has announced this week details of a solar panel recycling facility that's going to be built adjacent to its glass manufacturing facility in Cedartown, Georgia. This 255,000 square foot facility will have the capacity to recycle about 10 million solar panels each year, although initially they're going to be gearing up for about 2 million a year, but they do have the ability to expand as the end of life cycle for solar panels begins to grow over the coming years. The facility is expected to employ about 1,250 new workers down there at the recycling as well as the glass manufacturing plant. The Cedartown facility joins other facilities that are owned by Solar Cycle in Texas as well as in Arizona. And this solar recycling plant should be operational by mid-2025, the glass manufacturing coming online in 2026. Now, the Biden administration clearly made a transition from fossil fuels to the renewable energy economy a top priority, allocating billions of dollars through a number of acts, high profile, such as the Infrastructure Act as well as the Inflation Reduction Act. Although President-elect Donald Trump has signaled a significant change in direction, he stated that he will terminate all of the benefits outlined in the Inflation Reduction Act through executive order. However, even before the election, 18 House Republicans had sent a letter to Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, urging him not to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, stating that these credits that are accruing primarily to Republican districts and are creating good jobs within their districts. In fact, a report from a nonpartisan business analytic organization called E2 found that Republican congressional districts have received about 60% of the projects from government funding, as well as about 85% of all of the private investment associated with these projects that are the result of the Inflation Reduction Act. Although in the early hours after the election, it appears that at least the stock market feels that the incoming administration does not bode well for the renewable energy industry. Renewable energy bellwether stocks such as Sonova Energy actually plunged over 50% in one day. And that is the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.